How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo? As I mentioned, it's about jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most favored nation status for several reasons that I'd like to go into now. I'd like to call the attention of our colleagues to this chart on the status quo that the business community is asking each and every one of you each and every one of us to endorse today. Right now, we have a $34 billion trade deficit with China, the 1995 figure. It will be over $40 billion for 1996. Since the Tiananmen Square massacre, this figure has increased 1,000%, from $3.5 billion then to about $34 billion now. In terms of tariffs, I think it's interesting to note that the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%, whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal? No. On exports, China only allows certain industries into China, of U.S. Industries into China, and therefore only 2% of U.S. exports are allowed into China. On the other hand, the U.S. allows China to flood our markets with a third of their exports, and that'll probably go over 40%. And it's limitless because we have not placed any restriction. In terms of jobs, this is the biggest and cruelest hoax of all. Not only do we not have market access, not only do they have prohibitive tariffs, not only are our exports not let in very specifically, but China benefits with at least 10 million jobs from U.S.-China trade. The president, in his statement, requesting this special waiver, said that China trade supports 170,000 jobs in the United States, 170,000 jobs, whereas our imports from China support 10 million jobs at least.
Yo, I just wanted to show y'all that before I run to this clip of Marco Rubio defending the tariffs, because as you can see, Nancy Pelosi once believed in worldwide tariffs. Like I said, Marco Rubio was at NATO headquarters in Brussels, Belgium, and of course, it was the same day that Trumpito has did his worldwide tariffs, and Europe is in an uproar. So, they was asking him, what's the rationale behind America's decision? And he just said the same thing that Nancy Pelosi said, simply just repeated those ideas. America needs to let go of the status quo and return to being a favored nation in the planet. And there needs to be a incentive for businesses to be here in America. Yo, check it out. She believed in that in the 90s, and nothing ever changed until now. 2025 is just now about to be some changes. It's so crazy. My name is Marcus Russell. This is the Marcus Russell Show. Let's get right into it.
Markets are crashing around the world for the second day in a row. The consensus is that the president's tariffs were much higher than expected and based on economic formulas that people do not understand. What is your reaction, and what is the impact on Europeans? You want them to spend more on defense,
yes,
which they're agreeing to finally. But how can they do that when their economies are crashing and they are now
No, their economies are not crashing. The markets are reacting. No, their economies are not crashing. Their markets are reacting to a dramatic change in the global order in terms of trade. And so what happens is pretty straightforward. If you're a company and you make a bunch of your products in China, and all of a sudden shareholders or people that play the stock market realize that it's going to cost a lot more to produce in China, your stock is going to go down. But ultimately, the markets, as long as they know what the rules are going to be moving forward, and as long as that's set and you can sustain where you're going to be, the markets will adjust. Businesses around the world, including in trade and global trade, they just need to know what the rules are. Once they know what the rules are, they will adjust to those rules. So I don't think it's fair to say economies are crashing. Markets are crashing because markets are based on the stock value of companies who today are embedded in modes of production that are bad for the United States. We have to be a country that thinks we're the largest consumer market in the world, and yet the only thing we export is services. And we need to stop that. We need to get back to a time where we're a country that can make things, and to do that, we have to reset the global order of trade.
Term, and the other part
Yeah.
of the question.
Well, the worst thing is to leave it the way it is forever. I mean, this is just can't
Facts.
continue. We can't continue to be a country that doesn't make things. We have to be able to make things to provide jobs for Americans. And that's it. It's that simple. China is an example. I mean, it's outrageous. I mean, they don't consume anything. All they do is export and flood and distort markets, in addition to all the
Shit.
tariffs and barriers they put in place. So the president rightly has concluded that the current status of global trade is bad for America and good for a bunch of other people, and he's going to reset it, and he's absolutely right to do
Let me ask
it.
you about also the predictability of relationships with allies.
Man, we don't care.
Prime
Hold on,
Minister
look,
of Greenland-
look. Say
Excuse me.
they think that we care that they're gonna remove us from NATO. You know what I'm saying? Like, but Canada, this is what NATO is. NATO is us, Canada, and a bunch of Western European nations. You know what I'm saying? That don't have nukes. Okay, so you think that removing us from NATO is a threat? You can't threaten us. Like, what are y'all gonna do? You can't do nothing. NATO was created in 1949, and back then, all of our countries probably need each other back then, but yo, we don't need y'all for nothing. Now, we are the world's largest consumers and we don't have zero exports. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, if you want to sell something here, you got to pay the house first or move the company here so that we can have the jobs here. It's just that simple.
The Prime Minister of Denmark, which at this point owns Greenland, so Denmark, a NATO ally, is saying that it's unacceptable that one country cannot annex another country.
Well, no one's
What?
annexed anything. It's going to be up to Greenlanders. The vice president made that clear. He's going to respect the self-determination of Greenlanders. So at some point, the Greenlanders have made clear that they want to be independent of Denmark. So that's the Greenland. Denmark should focus on the fact that the Greenlanders don't want to be a part of Denmark. That's what they should focus on. We didn't give them that idea. They've been talking about that for a long time. Whenever they make that decision, they'll make that decision. And then what we're not going to do is let China come in now and say, offer them a bunch of money and become, dependent on China.
The president said
That
he would
part.
not rule out using military force against Denmark, a NATO ally.
No, he said he would not rule out. No. He said he would not rule out. He said, I'm not going to rule out anything if Greenland is encroached upon by a foreign power like a China or Russia or anybody else. But it doesn't matter because
Don't try to put words
Greenlanders
in
are
his
going to
mouth.
make a decision. They're the ones that want to get away from Denmark. They're the ones that want to be independent. And not us. We didn't come up with that idea. They did. And if they make that decision, then the United States would stand ready, potentially, to step in and say, okay, we can create a partnership with you. We're not at that stage. But that's what the vice president made clear last week in his visit there. His statement was very abundantly clear, that we will respect the self-determination of the people of Greenland. The people of Greenland. And they're the ones that want to leave Denmark. That wasn't our idea.
Yo, Marco Corleone is so gangster the way he's handling our family's business over there. They try to paint this administration as like some, I don't know what type of negative light they want to put us on. You heard they was about to, asking about the invasion into Greenland. I think, and with Trump and Putin's ties, swirling conspiracies of like a Russia-American alliance, they have the threats, like they said, of us invading Greenland or taking over Canada. This imposition of a global tariff. Any of these ideas combined, you can paint the Trump administration as not being interested in NATO. Like, we pretty much are probably not going to do whatever NATO wants to say. They don't spend no money. But you can realize the truth is this: America is finally putting Americans first. We need the jobs here, or we don't need your stuff, your goods. The only thing we need from other countries is crude oil and pharmaceuticals. Other than that, we can live without whatever they're offering if they don't want to pay the house first. You know what I'm saying? Nancy Pelosi said it best. We need to change the current status quo. And that was in 1990. They never changed it. So Trumpito's about to change it. Tell me what you think in the comments. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Until next time, peace.